Hey guys, how's it going? Target here, and today I'm going to be running through my mock draft for the 2014 NHL entry draft that will take place on June 27th in Philadelphia. Now, I have based my draft on the assumption that no trades are made prior to and on draft day, so where the picks are now will remain the same for the mock draft. I will not be making trades for teams because that opens up a whole new can of worms. Anyway, let's get to it. The 2014 draft boasts a large number of top-end talent players, with the big D-man from Barrie leading the way. Aaron Ekblad has put up some solid numbers and will likely be his final year in the OHL. At 6'3", 215 pounds, Ekblad has the tools to make that leap to the NHL right away. But will Ekblad find himself slipping down the draft charts like Seth Jones and Cam Fowler? There is a consensus top 4 skaters in this year's draft, with 3 centermen rounding out the group. Sam Reinhart, son of Paul Reinhart and brother of Max and Griffin, has been touted as the top overall pick for the last 2 seasons. With high hockey IQ and fantastic playmaking ability, comparisons have been drawn between Reinhart and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. However, a late season surge by Ekblad and other top pick Sam Bennett has pushed Reinhart out of the top spot. Will Florida covet the skill set Reinhart brings to the table, or will they opt to go with someone else? Samuel Bennett of the Kingston Frontenacs is the feel-good story of the year. The hard-nosed kid with a knack for the net found himself atop some draft rankings of the most respected scouts around the hockey world. Many consider him to be the most all-around skilled player in the draft. A little bit of playmaking ability and a little tenacity make him an excellent sounding option for any team. Does he have what it takes to dethrone Ekblad or Reinhart for the top spot? Germany hasn't produced many top talent prospects, but one thing is for sure, Leon Draisaitl might just be one of the best. At 6'1", 210 pounds, this centerman is any team's dream. Big body with a set of silky mitts. Comparisons have been drawn to Joe Thornton with the way he uses his big frame. He is also the kind of player that drives fans crazy because they can be made to appear a little soft. But make no mistake, this gargantuan German is anything but. Does Draisaitl have what it takes to muscle his way into the top spot? All questions will be answered in Target's 2014 NHL mock draft, starting now. Welcome everyone, I'm really excited to bring you this mock draft. It is something I have had requested of me for quite a while now. When I set out to do this draft, I wanted to do something no one has ever done on YouTube before. Just like my Stanley Cup Final simulation, I wanted to make something special that really involves the viewer. I wanted to make it feel like you were watching the draft itself on TSN or SportsCenter. So, without further ado, I bring you my NHL 2014 mock draft. Up first are the Florida Panthers. The Panthers haven't picked first overall since selecting Ed Jovanovski back in 1994 in Edmonton. They have been in desperate need for defense for the last few years. Erik Gudbranson appeared to be their man. However, while he has developed quite nicely, I feel the Panthers would have hoped for the progression to be slightly quicker. Last year, they selected Alexander Barkov with the second overall pick. Only time will tell, but many experts have agreed that this may have been a poor move for the Cats. They passed on Seth Jones and Jonathan Drouin to select Barkov. Will they pass on Ekblad and opt for another big center in Draisaitl, or add Reinhart, a player similar to Huberdeau in his skill set? I don't think so. If the Panthers retain the top selection, they're going to take Aaron Ekblad. Aaron Ekblad becomes just the second defenseman to be drafted first overall since the beginning of the millennium. This kid has all the makings of a top pairing D-man at the NHL level. Give him some time and conditioning. Let him learn the ropes playing some sheltered minutes. But this kid is smart. He learns quickly. He has great skating ability for his size, and he handles the puck responsibly in all zones. A player like that transitions really well to the NHL level. The kids with no foot speed are the ones who feel the difference the most, but Ekblad has the tools in place to be the kind of player who plays big minutes and makes a big impact. Great pick by the Panthers, who are in desperate need of a top D-man. Next on the clock are the Buffalo Sabres. Buffalo is in rebuilding mode and is in need of players at all positions. They've cleared the cupboards of effective NHL talent, including the face of the franchise, Ryan Miller. They have a number of solid prospects that have the potential to play major roles at the NHL level, and at the very least, play supporting roles for top-end talent. With the likes of Mikhail Grigorenko, Joel Armia, Rasmus Ristolainen, Mark Pysyk, and Nikita Zadorov, Tim Murray could stand at another talented winger. However, he will take the best player available, you can be sure of that, and the best player available, in my opinion, is Sam Reinhart. So Sam Reinhart will go second overall, and I cannot think of a team that needs a player like Sam more than the Sabres. He truly is an incredible offensive threat that can play in big situations for the team. Is he NHL ready? I don't think quite yet, but we have an entire offseason and training camp to go yet, so who knows? Anything can happen. I think that within the Sabre organization, Reinhart is a shoo-in for the opening night roster, but he may not last past the 7th game, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. The problem with rebuilding teams is that they're always looking for that quick turnaround. This never bodes well when it comes to developing talent. A kid like Reinhart could really use another year in the WHL to dominate his opponents. If he plays in the WHL next year, I can see him racking up as many as 120 points. But I think ultimately he will play the whole year for the Sabres come 2014-15. Up next is Craig MacTavish and the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers have selected in the top 10 every single year since 2007. Year after year, we hear about the Oilers and how amazing they'll be in a few years. But I think that time is up on this attitude. Fans, coaches, and management, they're tired of waiting. They want results. The Oilers really need to make a step forward this year. I fully expect them to challenge for a playoff spot this year. While I would like to say that, they probably won't make it. A couple of smart moves by MacTavish, and all of a sudden they are in a very attainable position in the terms of the playoffs, so don't count them out. The Oilers prospect pool is deep at defense, but no one player stands out as a number 2. With Ekblad gone, the next best defensive prospect on the board is Hayden Fleury. But the Oilers have been notorious for drafting the best player available, and then, if need be, moving that player later for the pieces you need. Word is the Oilers have been high on Draisaitl, and that is exactly who I believe they will select. The Oilers choose the big body that can be a solid second-line center for years to come. I have to say I am not even a little bit surprised by the selection, but I definitely think that the Oilers could have chosen either Draisaitl or Bennett, and they will find 10 years down the road it was the right decision. Draisaitl brings that big frame that the Oilers really need in their lineup. Draisaitl has drawn comparisons to Jágr in the way he uses his size to make his plays. Now, obviously, this is a little easier at the junior level when it comes, when many of the players are much smaller, but I think that his game will translate well to the big leagues. It'll be exciting to see Draisaitl in those Oiler threads, though, come September. I can guarantee you he will be in the lineup on opening night in October. Very solid choice by the Orange and Blue. So for the second year in a row, the Flames will select right after the Oilers at number 4. The Calgary Flames are another team that is rebuilding. They have moved out a few players in hopes of adding some solid prospects. They added Sean Monahan, Emile Poirier, and Morgan Klimchuk in the first round last year. Monahan had a great rookie season, putting up 34 points in 75 games for the Flames. The jury is still out on Sven Baertschi. Baertschi has struggled to find his rhythm. Another player who we have very little knowledge about is Mark Jankowski. Jankowski was the player Jay Feaster claimed to be the most skilled player in the draft. They passed on the likes of Olimata and Malcolm Subban in favor of Jankowski, who is ranked 43rd overall by Central Scouting. Will the Flames go off the board, or will they make the safe selection and round out the top 4? I think that they make the safe and smart selection, taking Sam Bennett. It is clear with Burke and new GM Brad Treliving at the helm, they won't be picking off the board anytime soon. Bennett is one of the consensus top 4 picks, and the Flames are lucky to have him fall in their laps at number 4. It isn't often that a player of Sam's caliber is available this low in the draft. I think Bennett could definitely challenge for a roster spot for the season, but I think that his game being a physical one could do to benefit from one more year in junior. He plays a big game with a small frame, and we need to look no further than Ryan Callahan for an example of this type of player. Callahan has spent significant portions of his career on the injured reserve list. Is this going to happen to Bennett? I think it won't if Calgary allows him to progress the way he should. Rush him, and you could very well have another Callahan on your hands. On the clock now, the New York Islanders. Garth Snow and his team have picked in the top 15 10 times in the last 11 years. Along the way, picking up the likes of John Tavares, Griffin Reinhart, Nino Niederreiter, Kyle Okposo, Josh Bailey, and Calvin DeHaan. The last couple years, it has been blatantly obvious they need a huge upgrade in goal. After really getting the raw deal when Rick DiPietro took a turn for the worse and the Islanders used a compliance buyout on the former first overall. The draft has not been kind to the Islanders. Mind you, they continue to shoot themselves in the foot. Take recently, when they traded their 5th round pick in 2015 for the rights to UFA Dan Boyle. That pick would turn into a 4th if Boyle signs with the team this year. But that looks like about as likely to happen as a tornado in the Arctic. Del Cole is the consensus number 5 overall pick, and I must say that the Islanders appear to have a pretty decent prospect in Del Cole. I believe that they'll make the selection and take the young general forward. He won't wow you with his abilities, but he kills penalties, and he does all the little things right. He also has an absolute cannon of a slap shot. The Gens used him on the power play this last year, and he saw his goal scoring go from 15 goals in 63 games back in 12-13 to 39 goals in 67 games this year. Talk about progression. Expect big things from this kid. Up next, we have the Vancouver Canucks. The Canucks are in a very different place today than they were 3 years ago. They found themselves on the outside looking in these playoffs for the first time since 2008 and recorded the fewest points in a single season since the 2000 season. It all began with Luongo-Schneider trade fiasco when they tried to move Luongo and failed. Then at the 2013 draft, they traded Schneider to the Devils for a first-round pick, which became Bo Horvat. Then at the deadline, they moved Luongo to Florida. All of a sudden, the Canucks found themselves without a legitimate starter. Now, it appears the once great team is in rebuilding mode. Mind you, no one has dared to utter those words within the organization. In addition to Horvat, the Canucks have Hunter Shinkaruk and Nicholas Jensen in the system. Keep in mind, though, that many of these players are rather small, and in a conference where size is king, the Canucks are losing the battle. They would do well to add a big player or a solid defenseman, but I think that they're going to grab Nylander with that 6th pick. Definitely not a big player at 5'9", 170 pounds, but definitely one of the most skilled in this draft. He is incredibly mobile and has outstanding skills. Silky smooth hands, fantastic vision, tight puck handling, and a wicked shot. He is strong at playmaking, constantly creating scoring chances for teammates. I think it is quite odd that they don't take Jake Virtanen, who provides some size, but it is obvious they went for pure skill, and that is something that Nylander definitely has. Up now, we have the Carolina Hurricanes. The Canes have done pretty well at the draft. They picked up Elias Lindholm last year, who made an impact right away for the team. They also have a solid offensive D-man in Ryan Murphy, and a decent depth center in Victor Rask, who promises to be quite a skilled player. They do have a shallow group of forwards with the exception of the 3 already mentioned. They could do to add some goaltending depth with no goalie slotted to go in the first round. I suspect they will go with a forward. A number of forwards still sit on the board in the aforementioned Virtanen, as well as Nick Ritchie and Brendan Perlini. However, I feel that they're going to go with Virtanen. A solid pick by Ron Francis in the Hurricane organization. Virtanen is a skilled sniper who plays a physical game. He really is a complete player and is not too far from NHL work. I keep hearing comparisons to Jerome McGinley on the top end, and that is definitely not a bad thing. He grew up idolizing Rick Nash and models his game after Rick. If he can be half the player that Nash is, then the Hurricanes really lucked out taking him at 7. Alright, so now the 4th Canadian team is set to make their pick. The Maple Leafs are up. Toronto is in a bit of a sticky situation here. They just brought on Brendan Shanahan to try and make sense of it all, but who knows how much good he'll do. The team could do to add some top-end talent in goal and at forward. The only prospects that excite me in any way are Frederick Gauthier and Josh Lavo. Obviously, with Finn coming up in the system and now with Riley playing with a big club, the Maple Leafs look to restock the cupboards. With Nick Ritchie still available, the Maple Leafs would serve well to take the big power forward. However, I think the Leafs are going to take Nikolai Ehlers from the Halifax Mooseheads with the 8th selection. They may have drafted down a little on this one, but I think it is a safe pick. I don't see much ridicule coming from the decision, considering Ehlers had a fantastic year in Halifax, putting up 104 points in 63 games. It also didn't hurt that he was playing with Lightning prospect Jonathan Drouin. Ehlers made the transition from the Swiss leagues to the North American ones in an effort to be noticed. I definitely think it helped him tremendously. Dominique Ducharme, the coach of the Mooseheads, commended Ehlers for his ability to adapt to the North American game. There were some concerns with his ability to handle the number of games played in the Q schedule, but that was all put to rest. At only 5'10", he still has some room to grow, but his size has allowed him the ability to separate from checks and drive the net. He has soft hands and fires crisp passes through the slot with authority. He has a first pass mentality and has been compared to a poor man's Ales Hemsky. We'll see if he has the same injury problems with his size. Now, the Winnipeg Jets will step up to the podium to make their pick. The Jets are a team that are in dire need of some elite wingers. Evander Kane really hasn't panned out according to plan. Obviously, the last couple years, it's been pretty much steady Eddie, but just one good season and he'll be back in the good books and everybody will be talking about him. For now, the Jets' best prospect is Josh Morrissey, an offensive defenseman. They also have Nicholas Patan, but Patan is an undersized player who might not translate to the NHL game. We've seen it time and time again. The Jets would do well to draft a bigger player, and I believe they're going to do that by taking Nick Ritchie from the Petes of the OHL. Ritchie is an absolute perfect selection. He will immediately slot in as their top forward prospect, without a doubt. At 6'2", 230 pounds, Ritchie is as tough as they come. Big body, physical player, absolute beast on the ice. Being so big already will lend well to Ritchie when his skill catches up with his size. He has a little maturity to do if they wanted to be competitive at the NHL level, but definitely a solid choice by the Jets, and they receive a player that will complement their current and future roster very well. On the clock now are the Anaheim Ducks. They, of course, acquired this pick from the Ottawa Senators in that trade that moved Bobby Ryan out of Disneytown. There is no doubt in the hockey world that the Ducks have one of the best goaltending prospects around. In fact, the Ducks' ability to acquire top-notch goalies appears to be a common occurrence. From Hiller to John Gibson, the Ducks have done well. Unfortunately, a lot of their top prospects in other positions have since graduated, but they do have potential in players like Ricard Raquel and Shea Theodore. They also recently acquired Louis LeBlanc from the Canadiens, which helps them out at center. Honestly, the Ducks could draft any position they wanted. I suspect them to take the best player available. I think with the 10th pick, they will take the second best defenseman in the draft with Hayden Fleury. The Ducks have always valued big puck-moving defensemen, and Fleury is exactly that. The Saskatchewan native has great skating ability and uses this to join the rush at appropriate times. Not unlike Cam Fowler in his playing style, mind you, his skill set might be a little rawer than Cam's. Expect Fleury to be back in Red Deer next year and possibly the year after. He could use a little time to incubate. Up next, we have the Nashville Predators. The Preds are in an interesting situation at the moment. They are sort of in a no man's land in a sense that they can't decide whether they are a competitive playoff team or a rebuilder. They lost Suter to free agency a few years ago and have only added top prospect Philip Forsberg via trade. They did get lucky when they drafted Seth Jones, mind you, and they still have Big Shea Weber to mentor him. Nashville seriously lacks some top-end scoring forwards, though. They could do to add some depth there and at center on their pro roster. The Predators could also do well to move Weber and Rene in hopes of acquiring some of these top prospects that they're looking for, or younger NHL players with a solid future. They're definitely a team that doesn't have to enter full rebuild mode considering the assets they have in Rene and Weber. Teams looking for a top-end D-man and have young available talent are the Philadelphia Flyers and the Edmonton Oilers. Do I see a deal happening? Possibly, but only time will tell. With that pick, I think the Preds will take Kasperi Kapanen from Kalpa of the Finnish League. They add another small scoring forward in Kapanen. Funny enough, he has been compared to Patrick Hornqvist, so we might get a chance to see them play together. Kapanen is a fast skater, but lacks some physicality to his game. He's capable of taking a hit, but can shy away from delivering them, even at the junior level. An interesting choice by the Preds, but could definitely complement some of their bigger power forward type players. Next come the newly named Arizona Coyotes. Coyotes have added a number of good prospects over the last few years. Henrik Samuelsson, Max Domi, Laurent Dauphin, Mark Byzantine, and of course, Brandon Gormley. Arizona is in a fantastic position these days. They are one of those teams that should remain competitive while still experiencing turnover. They have yet to establish themselves as an elite team, mainly because they lack that elite talent. But depth throughout the rosters year after year has allowed them to remain a poor man's Detroit. Obviously, Detroit has much more success than the Yotes, but make no mistake, the Coyotes have done really well with their talent. I believe with their historic first pick with the new name, the Arizona Coyotes will take Brendan Perlini of the Niagara Ice Dogs. His big frame and skating style have drawn comparisons to Shane Doan. He began playing hockey in the UK before moving to Ontario. Kid loves to move the puck and is always a pass-first mentality. He has a good touch when finishing chances, but he doesn't shoot the puck very often to create chances. He could stand to shoot more in good positions, but other than that, Perlini looks like a decent hockey player at the NHL level. I would say he will play one more year with Niagara before moving to the AHL. Up next, we have the Washington Capitals with the 13th. Caps have a number of decent prospects, but are thin on defense and left wing. They really need to add players that will make an impact at the NHL level. Aside from Evgeny Kuznetsov and Andrei Burakovsky, the Washington Capitals don't really have anyone else that look like they'll be an impact player. I believe that they're going to go after undersized defenseman Julius Honka of the Swift Current Broncos. Julius has the makings of a solid offensive defenseman in the NHL. He is only 5'7", and odds are he won't get too much taller. I think that Honka could have a couple really solid seasons if he has protected minutes, but long-term may run into some problems staying in the NHL. The Capitals have been known to take risks all over the place, from draft to goaltending, and it appears this is going to be one of those occasions. Is the Dallas Stars that have the 14th selection this year. The Stars are in a very good position, honestly. They really could add almost anywhere. They do have Jack Campbell, who promises to be a top-end goaltender, but outside of him, they really are in trouble. I have Dallas selecting Kevin Fiala of the Swedish Elite League. Fiala is also an undersized player at 5'9", but at 180 pounds, he's solid on his skates. He has fantastic offensive instincts and can surprise anywhere in the offensive zone. That's right. He could use a little work on adding some muscle to be stronger in the corners to help his defensive game. With the 15th pick, the Detroit Red Wings could do a few things. They really have a great talent pool. They have Peter Mrazek in goal and Anthony Mantha on the wing. They could add at D if they wanted to, but would survive adding pretty much anywhere. I feel that they will go after Greyhound centerman Jared McCann. The Red Wings have always drafted forwards high and D-men later. McCann brings that two-way game that the Wings covet so highly. He brings a creative flair to his game and is described as shifty. We know that the Detroit Red Wings like creativity a lot, and so I think this is a great fit. Alright, now I'm going to go quickly through the bottom 15 picks of the draft because they're a little bit more random. I don't really need to go into as much depth in terms of what the players offer and why they complement that team as much. So we're just going to whip through this a little bit quicker. So with the 16th pick, the Columbus Blue Jackets select from the United States Development System big guy Alex Tuck. I think it's Alex Tuck. With the 17th pick, the Philadelphia Flyers select from the Moncton Wildcats Russian forward Ivan Barbashev. With the 18th pick, the Minnesota Wild will select from the USA Development League left winger Sonny Milano. With the 19th pick, the Tampa Bay Lightning select from the Guelph Storm undersized forward Robert Fabry. With the 20th pick, the San Jose Sharks select from the USA Development League centerman Dylan Larkin. With the 21st pick, the St. Louis Blues select from the Swedish junior system left wing David Pastrnak. With the 22nd pick, the Pittsburgh Penguins select from the Swedish Elite League centerman Jakob Vrana. With the 23rd pick, the Colorado Avalanche select from the Windsor Spitfires Joshua Ho-Sang. With the 24th pick, the Anaheim Ducks select from the Saskatoon Blades Russian forward Nikita Sherbak. With the 25th pick, the Boston Bruins select the first goalie of the draft from Boston College Thatcher Demko. With the 26th pick, the Montreal Canadiens select from the Sarnia Sting, Russian winger Nikolai Goldobin. With the 27th pick, the Chicago Blackhawks select, also from the Sarnia Sting, offensive defenseman Anthony DeAngelo. With the New York Rangers' 28th pick, the Tampa Bay Lightning select from the United States Hockey League center Nick Schmaltz. With the 29th pick in the draft, the Los Angeles Kings select from Modo of the Swedish Elite League winger Adrian Kempe. The New Jersey Devils hold the 30th pick this year as a result of a penalty issued by the league from the Ilya Kovalchuk contract. With that pick, the Devils select from the Calgary Hitmen defenseman Travis Sanheim. Well, everyone, that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed this mock draft, and I really hope you enjoyed the presentation. Slowly but surely, I'm striving to bring you guys more and more professional and authentic stuff with more professional and authentic presentation, while still providing that same entertaining content that you guys are used to. Remember, I rely completely on input from all of you guys, my audience, on what you want to see from me. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Remember to follow me on Twitter at TargetOdd18 to stay up to date on all my content, my personal life, as well as Target Talks. So until next time, I'm Target Audience, and I'll see you guys out on the ice.